What is it really like living with Hashimoto's? What are my symptoms and what is my reality? What is it really like living with Hashimoto's? What are my symptoms and what is my reality? Let me tell you now, when my thyroid meds are off, and for anyone who wants to know, I'm on levothyroxine and liothyroxine, and getting liothyroxine on the NHS is a story in itself, right? But I knew I needed both. I spoke to a very good endocrinologist that said to me, with the level of intensity of exercise that you do and your lifestyle, I was napping every single day for 5 years. And I thought that was normal, just to get through the day. Bearing in mind my sleep hygiene was really good. I know that when my thyroid meds are off, I'm extremely fatigued, where I can sleep 14, 15 hours. Obviously, when I'm going through a prep, for example, or I'm dieting, I can sleep excessively. And I don't really like to talk about that too much because a lot of people that diet or go through a prep, they struggle with their sleep. But for someone with a autoimmune disease, especially a thyroid one, it's generally like I get severe fatigue and I get mood swings, brain fog, I have irrational emotions. All of this is just combined with the whole thyroid. So the thyroid for me is, I didn't really understand it till later on in life, till I started helping women, especially with their autoimmune diseases, and they started messaging me because I started speaking about it on Instagram. I had an autoimmune flare up on Boxing Day, and no, Christmas Eve, I got it wrong, Christmas Eve. And I put it on my story, just literally just talking about it, how I was hospitalized, etc. And people were like, oh my gosh, we never knew you were actually living with an autoimmune disease. And I was like, I don't really talk about it. And I was like, I should talk about it more because I don't want anyone to ever feel like they're alone. So I know that my thyroid meds are also off when I get extreme bloating. Like, there's bloating and then there's like my stomach is distended and I'm eating the same foods. For example, for me, I can't digest potatoes, the potato family generally, beetroot. The starch does not sit right in my stomach, and it really, really bloats me to the point where I literally struggle so much. And I feel like my symptoms have changed from being a child who was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease to teenager to now an adult. When you're a child, you really don't understand why you're so tired in school. I couldn't concentrate. I struggled in school, bottom set. I literally missed a lot of school because of the hospital, but also I just didn't understand what was going on. I just generally didn't quite understand why I was getting pulled out of school so often. And then moving to secondary school, I understood what was going on, but I was just frustrated. I was like, why me? I was getting so angry, and I was like, later on I discovered that 3 out of 4 grandparents actually have an underactive thyroid. So I realized, yep, I'm the bad apple from the tree, if you want to put it. I got the short straw. Now as an adult, I'm a little bit more aware, but I could be better. And I've realised that there are certain symptoms, certain triggers, certain areas where I could literally be better at. So for example, if I know that I'm going through PMS, I only got diagnosed with PMDD. If you want a video on that, please let me know, because that was a whole diagnosis in itself. But I got diagnosed with PMDD about 3 or 4 years ago, and it's like a severe, for me, I'm a very I'd like to think I'm quite a happy person, but when PMS came, I just plummeted. And I was like, this is not normal. And later on, I was doing research and I realized it was actually linked to my thyroid. So when you have a thyroid condition, you can literally be exposed to so many other conditions, especially autoimmune. So I think doctors do a fantastic job, and I'm very passionate about this. They do a fantastic job at giving us the right medication, trying to see the blood work to be able to give us the right T4, levothyroxine, whatever you want to call it. That's generally the blanket bandage statement that most doctors will give, unless you have a really good endocrinologist. But it's actually lifestyle interventions which I see the best change with for you, also with you how you're feeling. So for example, I know for myself and my clients, when they cut out gluten, and that's a big thing for most people, right? They love their bread, they love their pasta, especially in the Western world. I've actually lived in India, so I know that they don't generally have a lot of that. But when they move to, for example, to sourdough, easy swaps, they feel a lot better because their body can digest it. I know incorporating movement, and I'm not talking about the gym, I'm talking about Pilates or any type of movement that suits you, that really works, because what that does is that gives you a sense of release and sense of purpose and sense of drive, and those lifestyle changes that you can take into account, especially having a thyroid condition, really can benefit. One thing that I make sure with clients and myself is that we have Christopher's vegetables. Sorry guys, I'm dyslexic, so I might say it wrong, but like spinach, kale, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, any dark leafy green will really help your thyroid. 3 Brazil nuts a day contain the right amount of selenium. Little tips like that I learned to research because I was struggling myself, and I just wanted to optimize and feel the healthiest I've ever been. So I feel like generally, obviously I am in the fitness industry, and that's something that I'm quite open about, but I'm not your normal case. I've never been the normal case, and I don't know why I try and put myself in a box and think I'll always be getting blood work done. I'll always be looking after my thyroid. I will have an autoimmune disease. I have an autoimmune disease. It's something I'm embracing now as I'm getting older, and I'm sharing this channel, this space, so that we all feel like we're not alone. And I really want to make sure that you feel like if you're experiencing any of the symptoms, so it could be fatigue, hair loss was a big thing for me, like especially as a woman or even as a man, I don't want to generalize, but like losing loads of clumps of your hair and just it almost feeling like, what's going on with me? Why am I so tired? Why am I so moody? Why am I so fatigued? It could be your thyroid, and it's something that we need to raise awareness on, or even autoimmune diseases in general, because I was experiencing all of these and I just thought it was me. I just thought my hair was falling out. I thought it was because of the summer, but no, my thyroid meds were wrong. So generally, I want to make sure that your symptoms are never not looked at. A good doctor, a good endocrinologist once told me that yes, it's 50% your blood work, but it's also 50% how you feel. So making sure that you take both holistically, take that holistic approach to find what works for you. And I think that's what's the most important with this, is to make sure that you take into account which two, you know, finding a doctor firstly that listens to you, hears you, and also understands that the female body is something that is so different to a man, and we don't process the same as a man. Fun fact, my granddad had a thyroid issue, so it can happen to men. But with me personally, we also have our monthly cycle. And for me, my monthly cycle gets worse if my medication is off. Generally, it's pretty stable. But if you diet and go into off season, for example, if you are an athlete and if you do compete and you keep yo-yoing, you do have to look after your levels. And that's something that you do have to take into consideration. So if you have just been diagnosed, or that you know someone that's been diagnosed, make sure that they're aware of this. Make sure that they take precautions. Make sure that they're really on their health. And I preach blood work, and I'm not going to hide away and say that I don't work with Medichecks. I do work with Medichecks, and I'm very lucky to work with them because they open my eyes to there's a lot more help out there than we get exposed to. I was always through the NHS, and the NHS are lovely, and what our public service do in the UK for our blood tests are fantastic, but making sure that we can also utilise other services if you can afford it will really benefit you. So this is just a general chit chat, but I hope that, you know, if you're struggling, my DMs are always open. Leave a comment to let me know what you actually want to see next. Could be blogs, stay in the life, but generally I just wanted to speak my story, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. My TikTok and Instagram are down below. It's just Jasmine Energy, and make sure you give my channel a follow because I would really appreciate it.